Hi guys, so we're going to be doing our reading lesson. To do that today, I need to share my screen with you so that we can go through a PowerPoint. So let me get that up. Okay. And let me minimize me. All right, so today we're beginning our new fantasy unit. Now, personally, I love reading fantasy. It's been one of my favorite genres ever since I was a kid. So I'm really excited to begin teaching you about reading fantasy. But why would we read fantasy in the first place? Why is it important enough for me to teach you a whole unit on it? We read fantasy fiction because the stories are extraordinary. They're wild, dangerous, and exciting. When you study fantasy, you're really studying what it means to be human. It's not really about elves and dragons, it's about wisdom and greed and power and good and evil. If you become a strong reader of fantasy, you'll be a strong reader in all genres. Fantasy is complicated. You have to figure out how the world of the story works. The plots are tangled, there are lots of characters, and many fantasy stories are longer series like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson. Reading fantasy is like taking a wild adventure. So, today's teaching point. Today, I want to teach you that fantasy readers like us understand that our first task is to ask ourselves, what kind of place is this? Fantasy readers look for clues about the time period and the magical elements in particular, using the covers, blurbs, and details from the beginning of the story for their research. So essentially, we're looking at the setting today and thinking about what kind of place it is. Experienced fantasy readers know that there are a few types of worlds they might expect, like a medieval world with swords, castles, dragons, and so on, like The Lord of the Rings or most of Narnia, which we've actually read, so you guys know that. A futuristic world is another type of fantasy book you might read, where there's things like spaceships, interstellar travel, advanced technology like Star Wars. Or a fantasy book might have a world that seems ordinary at first, but as the story goes on, you realize something fantastic is happening, like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson. Fantasy readers look for clues about what kind of world it is right away, but we're also on the watch for anything that changes. For example, Narnia seems to begin in the normal world, but then the characters are transported. We watch for clues and adjust our ideas. So we read Narnia, how they travel through the wardrobe, remember? And then it was like this whole new magical world, even though the other world was pretty normal. So I'm going to model quickly a section of The Lightning Thief, and we're going to take a look at the front and the back of the book. So here we have a visual of the front cover of the book. What do you notice about the front cover? Thinking about setting, so we have some skyscrapers here. We have some water, and we have Percy Jackson here. And you'll notice he's holding a couple of items, kind of looking mystical, magical. The sword is kind of like glowing. So we can kind of see that even though the setting kind of appears normal, I mean, it looks like it's set in maybe some kind of city, there's definitely some magical elements here. And let's look at the back of the book. So it might be kind of hard to read here. I'll read from my copy because sometimes the back of the cover might also tell us some things to look for magical elements. So the back of the book says, Percy Jackson is about to be kicked out of boarding school again. And that's the least of his troubles. Lately, mythological monsters and the gods of Mount Olympus seem to be walking straight out of the pages of Percy's Greek mythology textbook and into his life. And worse, he's angered a few of them. Zeus's master lightning bolt has been stolen, and Percy is the prime suspect. So that means they think he did it. Now Percy and his friends have just 10 days to find and return Zeus's stolen property and bring peace to a warring Mount Olympus. But to succeed on his quest, Percy will have to do more than catch the true thief. He must come to terms with the father who abandoned him, solve the riddle of the oracle which warns him of betrayal by a friend, and unravel a treachery more powerful than the gods themselves. Wow. So even though there are some realistic elements there, there's also a lot of magical elements that you heard. So things like Mount Olympus. So it's like a made up place. Talking about Zeus, the main god that's in this text. Things like the oracle. So there's a lot of mystical type of things mentioned on the back as well. So now let's see, can we also confirm some magical elements in the text itself? So this is a couple excerpts I pulled from reading chapter 1. So let's look at this little blurb from page 12. Then the weirdest thing happened. Her eyes began to glow like barbecue coals. Her fingers stretched, turning into talons. Her jacket melted into large, leathery wings. She wasn't human. She was a shriveling hag with bat wings and claws and a mouthful of yellow fangs, and she was about to slice me to ribbons. And this is a blurb from page 13. With a yelp, I dodged and felt talons slash the air next to my ear. I snatched the pen out of the air, but when it hit my hand, it wasn't a pen anymore. It was a sword, Mr. Brenner's bronze sword, which he always used on tournament day. So, what do you guys think? Can we confirm that there are definitely some magical elements? Even though this is an ordinary world, we're starting to see some extraordinary things happening. So, like in this blurb, a math teacher is turning into a monster. We wouldn't see that in real life. Or here, a pen turning into a sword. Again, magical, not something that we would really see. So these are definitely elements of a magical characteristic. So I hope you're able to get your hands on some fantasy books. Could be ebooks or audiobooks, those count. But this is a good strategy no matter what type of story you're reading. Readers of fantasy start reading by asking, what type of world is this? And looking for clues to answer that question. You can preview the cover and blurb, look for details about the setting and clothes and the way people talk right from the beginning. This is something you can bring to other genres too. So practice this no matter what type of fiction book you're reading. Time to practice. So your job for today, start reading your fantasy book. You're going to first stop and think about the clues on the front cover, read the back blurb of your book, and think about what kind of place this is. Why did it just kick us out? No, we don't want the new Java. Come on. Sorry, guys. So you're thinking about what kind of place it is by looking at the front cover, reading the back cover, starting to read your book and looking at those different blurbs. And then your assignment is going to be stopping and jotting in Google Classroom in your reading notebook about things like daily life, any technology, any magic, things you're wondering, questions you have, connections you're making. So take a little bit of notes in that notebook based on your book that you're reading. And then you can also check the fantasy bingo. So there's a bingo card in there as well under reading to see if there's anything you can mark off, things that you've noticed in your book. And you can type directly into the bingo card for that. And you can do one square, you can do as many that apply. That's kind of up to you. So that's pretty much it. So looking for magical characteristics, thinking about setting, how that might affect how your novel goes. And that's about it. So make sure you get these assignments done, please. I'll be checking them. And we'll be also reading another chapter of The Lightning Thief that will be posted today. So you can listen to that before or after this lesson. The order doesn't really matter. I kind of changed my mind. I think I'm going to read a chapter 3 times a week so we can finish the book in time. So looking for a new chapter Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'll try to be posting the next chapters those 3 days a week. All right. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed and start reading those fantasy books. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.